Hello, it's Adil Fazal here, market analyst at CFDs.com. Be sure to visit www.cfds.com for your trading needs and certainly be able to qualify for that potential bonus as well. Alternatively, you can visit cfds.education to certainly learn more with regards to my analysis, charts, videos, etc. Okay, so let's sum this up. At the start of this video, basically it's the BP show, okay? British Petroleum certainly causing immense damage on the FTSE 100 this morning in terms of sector weighting. As we all know, on the FTSE itself, the sector weighting is quite substantial and certainly is causing immense weakness. Now, let me just add in the actual sector itself here into the actual analysis. So bear with me. Let's just look at this. FTSE 350 energy. And just show you exactly what's happening here. One second. Okay, here we go. Okay, so really the onus today is on the actual oil and gas sector. So you can see here FTSE oil and gas down quite substantially in the 60-minute chart. We had this H&S formation. Now we are now coming into potential support, and so is the chart of BP as well. Now let me just bring up the chart of BP whilst we're at it. In today's analysis, there we go. Okie dokie, right, so the 60-minute chart of BP certainly is coming into potential support. The daily chart, obviously, you can see we've had this quite a substantial gap down now, and a lot of it really was priced into the market. I mean, the BP has fallen from £5 down to £3.20, and one could argue a lot of the bearish news was already baked into the cake to a large extent, especially with the drop in oil and the drop in FTSE, quite a substantial drop in FTSE as well over the last few days, well, the last few months, should I say. Now, the price of support or area of support, we're currently in the 336 zone. Obviously, if we do fall further, then you are looking at 330, potential 320. So these are all support zones for the FTSE, for the actual chart of BP, which in turn should help the FTSE move higher. Now, we have had economic data today out of the UK, or should I say the European economic data certainly has been stronger. You've had retail sales from the CHF. Excuse me. Okay, so European data as well. German unemployment certainly better than expected, although Italian unemployment certainly worse. We did have PMI construction data out in the UK, slightly worse than expected, so that certainly was a surprise, although the unemployment rate in Europe certainly improved, and you did have weaker inflation data, which in turn supports the argument for more QE. Okay, so a mixed set of results, or a mixed set of data there in terms of the actual market for the European session. Okay, so in terms of the actual Asian markets, we had a mixed set of results there as well. You had the Shanghai up 2.3%, whilst the Nikkei certainly required a much needed pullback given the stellar rally that we've seen post the negative BOJ rate surprise. Now, no cause for concern really. I mean, that was it's healthy really in essence. I mean, from a bounce from 16,000 up to 18,000, you had almost a 2,000 point move. So it certainly is healthy from that perspective. Okay, now in terms of the Shanghai index, let's bring up the chart of Shanghai and show you that as well. The Shanghai certainly is meandering along. It is still holding that weekly 200 MA. From my perspective, you are looking at a potential bounce here, given the fact that the Google earnings were certainly stronger, which should obviously help the Nasdaq to a large extent, which in turn should obviously help the global markets move higher as well. So the Shanghai being into potential support, and certainly is overdue a powerful correction, from my understanding. Okay, now the Aussie and Kiwi certainly stabilizing as well, so that certainly is going to help the risk on trade. The main, obviously, the bullish factors this morning are stronger German and EU data overall. Okay, we've although BP earnings certainly missed a lot of that bearish news really is factored in now into the FTSE 100. Now, if I bring up the chart of the FTSE and I show you the potential pattern, we had the HNS formation looking for 5935. We've hit a pivot low of 5945. So the actual HNS target really has been baked into the cake now. And you are looking at a potential rally from my perspective. 5945 should hold and should be the pivot low as US markets come back on board, from my understanding, especially given the fact that Google earnings certainly beat expectations and have sent the actual risk trade higher. Okay, so certainly take that into consideration when trading today. So given the fact that the FTSE certainly is potentially putting in a base here, bringing up the 60-minute chart, the FTSE is into that 200 MA. Yes, we've broken out of that key diagonal trend line, so that certainly is out of the equation. And the test of 5915 certainly is a possibility in terms of the FTSE 100. That certainly needs to be taken into consideration as well when trading today. Okay, so that certainly is a very, very strong possibility of occurring. Although, having said that, you have Draghi's QE speech yesterday, certainly underpinning and helping the market in terms of risk. You have Mr. Fisher's comments yesterday and US market rally yesterday. And given the fact that we've held the inverted head and shoulders formation as well on the S&P chart, which I've already discussed, if I go to the 60-minute chart, you can see that we still are above the neckline, although we are facing resistance here. Currently, the S&P is trading at 1923. The resistance was at 1946, so we've fallen quite substantially already. I mean, we finished at 1940. If we open up at around the 1920 region, you are looking at previous resistance equals support. And you do have support at 1920 as well. So certainly into a potential support zone. But bear in mind and remember that the chart of the Nasdaq certainly is screaming very, very bullish and certainly is looking for a potential move higher. Okay, so certainly take that into consideration. So where do the European markets sit? Now let's have a look and let's look at the actual market itself. Now looking at a daily chart of the Eurostoxx, you are looking at potential consolidation, inverted head and shoulders, looking for a potential move higher. The 60-minute chart, we bang right back into that diagonal trend line support, and it's calling for a potential rally given the Draghi speech. We still have this inverted head and shoulders that hasn't hit its target, and we still have that unfilled gap at 3070. So at this juncture, one would argue that all the bad news certainly is baked into the cake. Okay, now the 10-minute chart of Eurostoxx, you are looking at potentially putting in a, given the fact that we've closed that gap now, we did actually push lower, which is a slight concern. Okay, bringing up the pivot low here, connect it to the pivot low here. Obviously, you are looking at potential support in this zone here. Okay, now the actual chart of the Eurostoxx again is you do have two bottoming tails at 2967, 2068, and you are looking for a potential pop higher with unfilled gap at 3020. So bear that in mind. The QE trade certainly is still alive, and that certainly needs to be factored into the equation here again. Okay, now certainly looking for a potential move higher. Now the S&P Europe 350 potential inside bar here. We are still looking for a potential move higher, and the inverted head and shoulders certainly formation is certainly prevalent here too as well. On the daily chart, you are looking at potential left shoulder here, head. Now looking for a potential small pullback, and then off we go to the races in the reversal. Okay, so again, we've broken out this downtrend and therefore looking for a move higher. 60-minute chart on the Eurostoxx S&P 350. Again, potential support and looking for a move higher. That's my interpretation thus far. Okay, German DAX. German DAX on a daily chart. Again, you have horizontal support in this region here, 9570, 9560. Looking at the 60-minute chart, you have this symmetrical wedge type formation, looking for a potential move higher. You have the unfilled gap at 9960, and that certainly needs to close. So which way will this actual symmetrical wedge break out? My interpretation is it's going to move higher. Okay, so that's my interpretation thus far, given the Draghi speech yesterday. The bottoming tails certainly have gone in on the 10-minute chart German DAX. We've held a double bottom as well. Okay, so that certainly needs to be respected, and now we're looking to potentially break higher. We have the unfilled gap that needs to close above. Okay, and all eyes will be on that gap. That's my interpretation. Okay, so certainly looking for a thrust higher and a move higher, led by Google, obviously in the US. Now we do have economic data coming out of the US shortly. You have in the next 2 hours, sorry, it's the Redbook Index, ISM, Economic Optimism, Fed George speak, and also bear in mind the S&P 500 now is into potential support and looking for a potential move higher. Okay, now the chart of the CAC. Let's just bring up the chart, the CAC here. Okay, looking at a daily chart first of all. Again, French CAC needs this unfilled gap to be closed at 4475, looking for a potential breakout. 60-minute chart, again, potentially into support here now. We certainly are looking to potentially move higher. It certainly is obviously being brought down obviously by the situation with regards to BP and the earnings there, certainly hurting the energy sector, obviously hurting the price of oil as well. As I speak, we did have a bounce on oil, but unfortunately on the price of crude oil now, or Brent, we've certainly made a potential new low. So this really is being tested to a large extent. So the question is you have negative rates in Japan, you have ECB obviously going ahead with its QE program, and also the inflation data, the PPI data today confirms that as well. Mr. Draghi's speech certainly confirmed that. So you have the Draghi put, you have the Abe put, or the Kuroda put, and you basically are looking now to potentially thrust higher on US markets. You have the inverted head and shoulders formation in US markets. You have stronger Google earnings. So everything certainly is aligning, and from my perspective, to a potential move higher. It's whether or not we can overlook the weakness in the price of oil and obviously the energy sector in total. Now, if we bring up the energy sector, which I've already shown you with regards to the oil, FTSE 350 oil, you are coming into previous resistance equals support. Bringing up the actual chart of the S&P 350 energy sector, and you are looking at coming into horizontal support here, and you have the 200 MA support as well. So that certainly is a zone that you are going to be looking at. Again, even though you are making lower lows and lower highs, from my perspective, you are looking at a potential inverted head and shoulders. So certainly some news coming, or some news is going to be coming out or pending that will actually support the price of oil, and obviously that in itself will support the actual equity markets themselves as well. So whether or not we make a lower low, that certainly is open to debate. But the market certainly seems to be set in a way that it wants to move higher. Again, my analysis could well be biased, and the market could go in the opposite direction. But given the fact that Mr. Abe and Mr. Draghi certainly have an indication of increased monetary stimulus, that supports the QE argument, that supports the QE trade, and supports the equity market from my perspective. It's very hard to fight central banks right now. So BP certainly has been factored into the market, and now you are looking at a potential move higher. That's my interpretation at this juncture. Okay, so going over to a chart of the French CAC again, 60 minutes certainly is into support. Daily chart again is consolidating, has a higher low and looking to potentially move higher. 10-minute chart of the French CAC, you've put in bottoming tails, you've obviously closed this gap here, and the argument certainly is for you to move higher. FTSE 100, again, the 200 MA is certainly coming into potential support. You have retraced now quite substantially. The bearish news has been baked in now. You've moved from a pivot high of 6060 now down to 5945. So ask yourself this question: 120-point drop, isn't that sufficient enough to actually account for the weakness in BP? Yes, it is. So again, certainly think across those lines. Okay, so that certainly is the situation at present. Again, like I said, the S&P 500, provided it stays above the 1906 level, the inverted head and shoulders formation reigns supreme. Okay, I think that's it for today in terms of the mid-afternoon, or should we say 12 o'clock update on European indices. Be sure to visit cfds.com for your trading needs. Goodbye now.